Welcome into the Kickoff presented by Ram Trucks, the only way to get your college football week started off on the good foot. Good foot is what I meant to say. Taylor Tannebaum, Trevor Scales, two turned up on a Tuesday, and we've got quite the show headed up for you. Max Browne will join us, Ryan McGee will join us. But above all else, I think I want to make sure y'all know out there, and Taylor.
Yeah, please, let me know.
We got a voicemail box that we always have folks drop through, and we got some famous names actually drop through this weekend to offer their thoughts, ask our opinions, because we are omniscient and all-knowing of everything college football. So, first voicemail, who do we have coming up?
Hey, y'all, Dabo here. Okay, hear me out. I know this looks ugly, but come on. Y'all aren't pinning this 1-3 start on me, are you? I've won this doggone ACC conference 9 times and have 2 national championships. That's 2 more than both of you combined. I'm not the reason this ship's going down, am I?
Okay, so I don't know if I should be offended by that mockery of a Southern accent. Like that hit a little close to home.
Also, he just shaded us a little bit.
I'm not even gonna do that.
I want to answer the question.
Please.
I do not think, Dabo Swinney, you are the sole reason for everything that is going wrong at Clemson right now. I think there's more than one thing at play with the issues there on that football team. But I do want to note the reason there is expectation and the reason people are upset that you're not winning is because you did set those expectations. You got this team to multiple national championships. You got this team to the mountaintop. That is why people are barking and saying, hey, what's going on there in Clemson, South Carolina? Now, I do think it is incumbent on Dabo as the CEO, essentially, of the program to evaluate, to potentially, be honest with himself and with the guys around him. Maybe sometimes there's been blind loyalty to certain people and players, I would argue. I'm not so sure the offensive coordinator position has worked out well with Cade Klubnik and what they do have. I know they hired a new DC. How does that pan out moving forward? It is incumbent on him to be the leader of this program, but no, I don't think it solely falls on Dabo's shoulders.
No, but look, you're paid handsomely to be the quote-unquote fall guy in this situation, so it is what it is. But I will say that a resistance to change is what feels like is getting him jammed up at this point, right? Because the transfer portal. I understand being hesitant to dive into that full-fledged, but he's shown an ability to sort of evolve and keep up with the times. In essence, the biggest knock on him before was, he doesn't hire coordinators outside of his program. Most recent hires show that he is willing to do that. So is he willing to take the next step into this college football space that is newly vamped and in a whole different space from a player compensation standpoint and just player movement standpoint? Are you going to buy in? Then we can make an honest assessment. But if you're not going to buy in and sort of evolve with the times, that's where there's going to be an issue.
And I do think, look, at the start of the season, nobody was crying about the portal with Dabo anymore. Everyone thought this was a great roster.
Yes.
Us included. So you can't backtrack on that now. I don't want Dabo Swinney to change who he is at his core. That's what made him so great over a decade and a half. But I do think adaptation is necessary, and I think he will do the work to make sure Clemson stays at the top because, as he said this week, Clemson means everything to him.
Standard's been set. Next voicemail.
Hey, Trev. Hey, Taylor. Big fan of the both of you, despite Taylor's Florida State ties. But anyway, y'all catch that game on Saturday? This is why I came to Miami, baby. Sun's shining, Gators crying, and it smells like an ACC title run to me. The U's back, aren't we?
I mean,
You want to go first?
I'll jump in only to say back always feels like a rush, right? We don't have to go back yet. We can be trending, baby.
Right.
Like, there's nothing wrong with taking steps in the right direction. And their game against Florida this past weekend certainly proved that. O-line looked dominant, smooth and pass pro, was able to lean on cats in the run game. Carson didn't have his best game, but when you can switch things up and go to your other alternatives, that shows a sign of a great team. And then obviously defensively, I know that the bar is in hell for the Gator offense. Like, it's so low. But to even, again, make them look as incompetent that they did, that shows you that this is a top 2 team and they may not be 2.
Yeah, I would agree. I cannot believe that the AP poll still has them at 2 behind Ohio State. But again, neither here nor there. And I would say 0 for 13 on third down, Florida. That's not very good. Carson, I want to apologize for my Florida State loyalty. I do want to note I did wear a Miami shirt to the game this weekend. Don't boo me. It's not my fault. But I agree. I had Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, 2-time national champion at Miami, Gino Torretta, on my show this weekend on the ACC Huddle. And I asked him this exact question, is the U back? And he said, look, the U is back when they win a championship because that was the standard at the University of Miami. So when they win it, we can say they are back. But like you said, they are trending in that direction. We won't use the B word until they're hoisting up that beautiful
That's
trophy.
Right. B is a 4-letter word.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get to the next voicemail.
Hey guys, John Mateer here. OU starting QB, future Heisman winner, and probably the next Bachelor. All right. Maybe I'm getting slightly ahead of myself, but I know none of y'all had me on y'all radar to start the season. Did y'all even have OU on the radar? I highly doubt it. So what do y'all think? Are you finally buying OU's 4-0 start? Or are y'all still trying to pretend like we don't exist? Holla at me.
Okay, John, I'm going to holla at you since that's what you're asking about. Okay, what does he think? He's Jordan Rodgers with The Bachelor? Like, you know, that
Jesse
whole...
Palmer word?
Hey,
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
All of
I will say, did I have Oklahoma as one of the top teams in the country to start the season? I'm going to be honest, no. But he clearly has not been watching the kickoff presented by Ram Trucks.
That's right.
Because we have been talking about Oklahoma. We have been talking about John Mateer being arguably one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the country. And I did look at the numbers a couple of weeks ago, and they were plus 1,500 to win the SEC. I can't lie to you. I thought about betting the house on that, putting my money on it because love this defense.
Yeah.
Love what he has done with this offense. John Mateer, he's come in completely revamped it. I would like to see somebody else lead the run game.
Sure.
But you can't take away the legs of this guy.
Right.
They're dynamic on both sides.
Look, Doug, he's here for a good time, not a long time,
True.
right? If
Fair.
you're going to lean upon a Heisman hopeful to get you across the finish line, I'm not going to be against that. Look, Streets were aware of what this dude could do. I just wasn't familiar with this game, and for that, John Mateer, I apologize. But it's evident that they have a lot of things working for them, and in a wide open SEC, this year of all years, why not, y'all? Like, there is totally a chance that they can make a run to Atlanta, get a win, because week to week, you don't know how this conference is going to unfold.
I would agree with that. And I think just the way the defense is playing, it allows John Mateer to be completely himself, right? Look, 10 sacks against Auburn last week. That's insane. And we're finally seeing everything you'd expect from a Brent Venables defense. Right. And then he's kind of left the offense up to everybody else and John Mateer. So I think because what they can do defensively is allowing this young quarterback, maybe potential bachelor of the future, to be everything that he can potentially be. And that's been a winning product for Oklahoma. They've had some big wins already, and I don't think any of them are fluky. This is for real.
No, they've shown an ability to rise up in the biggest moments. For instance, in that Auburn game, despite the officiating questions you may have, still made the plays that were absolutely necessary. So, Johnny Mateer, who knows, baby? Sky's the limit. Go get it.
Time now for unstoppable performances presented by Ram Trucks. Let's turn our attention to one of the headline games. This weekend, number 17 Alabama at number 5 Georgia. The Titan Dogs played a thriller last year with Bama jumping out to a big lead before Georgia stormed back. Alabama needed late game heroics from Ryan Williams to seal the victory. I think that was the game we learned. Yes, he is 17 years old. They said it about 100 times.
Could not say it enough.
This guy over here, our dog in the house, was devastated at the end of it, and we remember it like it was yesterday. And if we're going to talk the SEC, only fair, we bring in our friend, ESPN senior writer, co-host of Marty and McGee on SEC Network. That is Ryan McGee joining us now. Great to see you, friend. So happy to have you on our show. I want to focus on these two teams. What have you seen so far from Georgia and from Alabama this season that leads us to this clash this weekend?
Well, Georgia's playing angry. You know, they're playing like a team that needs to prove something. They feel like the world kind of forgot about them. Like, hey, we made the playoff, right? I mean, we're still the kings of the SEC, and people kind of not talking about them this year, which Kirby Smart digs. That man looks for chips to put on his shoulder, and the biggest chip is, you just mentioned it, that loss a year ago, which they felt like they should have won. They probably should have, and it put them behind the 8 ball last year. So, yeah, Kirby Smart operates best when he's angry. And as we know from the internet, when people crash his post-game speeches, he can get very angry. And he's very angry about this game.
Oh, yeah. Listen, there is no other reason for Kirby Smart to get up than to avenge the 1-6 record that he currently has against Bama, outside of just the rat poison, as Nick Saban once put it, that is streaming in on a weekly basis. But speaking of the coaching matchup in general, between he and Kalen DeBoer, who has obviously had his struggles at the gate but has since corrected, where does this matchup fall on the coaching side of things?
Well, I mean, something's got to give, right? I mean, Kirby Smart's won 33 in a row at home. But you're right. He struggled, mightily against Alabama, whether it's down the road at the SEC Championship game or home or on the road or wherever. And then Kalen DeBoer needs to win a game on the road. At home, Alabama's really good. On the road, it's like they lose the playbook somewhere on the interstate because they're terrible on the road. And so if Kalen DeBoer is going to continue to do reputation repair in Tuscaloosa, he's headed that way since stumbling through week one. But you got to win it. You have to win not just a big game, a game on the road and score some points on the road. And if Kalen DeBoer can do that this weekend between the hedges, one of the toughest places playing college football, then, yeah, that's a big step toward convincing everyone in Tuscaloosa that he should stick around for a while.
Yeah, that would be a massive win for Kalen DeBoer and company. Another SEC matchup this weekend, LSU, Ole Miss. On one side, you have a potential Heisman Trophy winner once we get to December in Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. Then on the other side for Lane Kiffin's squad, kind of a controversy. You have Austin Simmons, who's been hurt, and then you have Trinidad Chambliss, who's come in the last two games and really balled out for the Rebs. What do you think, though, inevitably will be the story of this game when it's all said and done?
Well, so you have one team that's way ahead of schedule in Ole Miss. You lose Jackson Dart, you're supposed to take a step backwards. I don't think anyone expected them to be where they are right now, right where they are, being undefeated. And then LSU, every week is a prove-it game for them.
Right.
And, I give Marty Smith credit. During the summer, he kept saying to me, this is a national title contender. I'm like, well, they need to win week one first. All right, so they took care of that. And then they got to get their offense going. Well, they're kind of taking care of that. And meanwhile, speaking of chippy, Brian Kelly's been very chippy this year. So I think more is at stake for LSU because they were a preseason title contender. They're playing like a title contender. And Ole Miss is kind of playing with house money right now because no one expected them to be where they are. Magnolia Bowl, right? Will anybody have any alcohol at this game? That's my question.
Maybe.
The answer is yes.
Just a couple sips here and
Few
there.
drops
Maybe
here and there.
Should be a good time out there at the Grove. Another SEC tip that we got on the books. Aggies visiting Auburn. Both of these teams coming off of dejecting losses, to say the least. Texas A&M with the heart-earning win against Notre Dame, and then Auburn has their qualms with what went down against in Norman, rather. But how do you see that game playing out?
Well, I was at Oklahoma, and Auburn feels like they should have won the game, and they probably should have won the game. It's all about what they haven't done. They're not even ranked anymore, but I think they're super dangerous, and it starts at quarterback. You've got a duel with that quarterback, Jackson Arnold, who had his heart broken going back to Oklahoma and losing the game, but I don't think anyone has any question about his ability. The challenge for A&M is putting pressure on him. They've got a defensive front. We think about A&M, we think about big guys up front. They've got to figure out a way to get to Jackson Arnold and to contain him. If they can do that, they can win the game. But yeah, this right here, this is what my dad was a referee. He called this $1 million ball game. This game is going to decide, even in September, what you're playing for in January, whether you're in a great bowl game or not a great bowl game, or in the playoff or out of the playoff. It's kind of go time for both those teams, in my opinion.
Amen.
If they can get over to Jackson Arnold the way that Oklahoma did, they should be just fine, should the Aggies. But I digress, because I want to talk to you about something that you got coming up this week. What can we look forward to from you this week, Ryan McGee?
Yeah, we're talking about Ole Miss and talking about coaches. Wednesday night on ESPN at 7 o'clock Eastern, and then streaming on the app afterwards. It's our E60 special, The Many Lives of Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin was kind enough to let us go to Oxford a lot and talk to him. And it's 1 hour dedicated to him and all the stops along the way. Fresno State, USC, the Raiders, the disaster at Tennessee. My wife was born and raised in Knoxville. She's so angry at me for working on this project, but it turned out great. So I hope everyone checks it out on Wednesday night. And it's his honesty, as you guys know this, as a journalist, as an interviewer, it's a gift when someone opens up their mind and their heart to you. And Lane Kiffin did that for us in this special. I think people are really going to like it.
Yeah. One thing about Lane Kiffin, he's always authentic, and especially sitting down with you. I know it's going to be A1. I have a feeling we'll be smiling and laughing throughout it, too. I guaranteed.
No doubt.
Thank you so much, friend.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, y'all.
Oh, it's officially official. The front end graphic for our very own Max Browne, a.k.a. Mad Max, joining us here on the Kickoff presented by Ram Trucks. Max, we missed you last weekend, buddy. But I know you were handling business out in the mock CFP committee thing. And how was that, and what was the experience like?
That Mad Max graphic is perfect, too. I used to have that Napoleon Dynamite
Pro
as a youngster. So we got to
Pixar
bring
didn't
that
happen.
back. Oh, I'll tee them up for next week, next Tuesday. Get ready. But no, last Tuesday I missed you guys. Yeah, I was at the CFP mock selection committee, and it was great. We went through the whole process of what in the exact room of what the committee's going through when they're making their selections. And my biggest takeaway is we make such a fuss, the media, that is, the collective we, in September around the impact that the AP poll has and other polls, and ultimately playing a role in the decisions that we make in December and November when it comes to rankings. To me, that's a complete non-factor, and I think other people felt the same way walking out of there. They have their own data, their own metrics. There's not even a thought that gets to like, oh, they started the year ranked at XYZ. It's all data for that specific season, weighted on, the stats that they perform well on, the teams that they're playing, again, in a digestible manner. So I think that's something that we overblow as a media group.
When you did it, real quick, Max, did you guys in that committee room come out with pretty much the same final 12, if you will, or final 25 as they did last year in the real committee room?
No shot. There was a lot of hindsight 2020 going on. Because keep in mind, we were debating the 2024 season. So as you would imagine, Ohio State had a way of leapfrogging Notre Dame to start that year. People weren't as high on Indiana. Like, I didn't realize how much of a Curtis Rourke fan I was until I started the debate process, being like, we got to get this guy credit. But yeah, Indiana fell, the SMU fell, and then a lot of people loved South Carolina, who coincidentally did not even make it into the playoffs, so you can't argue against them, so to speak, reading the offseason Lenora Sellers headlines. So I think they may have got in at the 12 spot, but it was definitely different than the OG committee.
Very interesting. Okay, let's focus on what's going on this season. Let's talk about quarterbacks. Let's go Arch Manning at Texas this weekend. They had a big win over Sam Houston State, but in the win, Arch scored a touchdown, and then he went over the defender and kind of like flexed on him like I am to this fire right now. Here's the video. And look, he hasn't had a ton to flex about this season. Max, what did you make of the move, this little move here, and did you like it? Did you hate it? What do you think?
I hated it. To me, it's a guy overcompensating for the fact that he's been getting a bunch of criticism, and probably his entire life he's always been the dude and the man, and then now he's having to show up a Sam Houston State player who's not even on their same level, as we're seeing some of the videos here. I would be willing to bet that Arch regrets it himself. I'm sure he got caught up in the moment. I'll give him a little bit of a pass because the expectations that he has had to deal with, and the criticism has been unique just because of his last name. Again, I think he would want this back again, but he's got to play football at a better level on a more consistent rate to be able to get away with that.
Yeah, it's going to take some time before we can allow him to go Pete Weber to use the video right in front
These
of us.
are insane.
Who do you are? Who do you think you are? I am. He ain't there yet, quite yet. Max, with regards to a team that has sort of flipped their own script in Florida State, undefeated now heading into Week 5, taking on a sneaky good Virginia team, but that's neither here nor there. What do you think was the linchpin as far as Florida State being able to flip their fortunes from 2-10 just a season ago?
Yeah, two big offseason acquisitions that they made. Offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn and quarterback Thomas Castellanos. And I think people at home might not necessarily realize how big of a pivot offensive scheme-wise it was when you get Gus Malzahn. I mean, just last week they had 11 different players get a carry. This is a run-first offense. The pass game is set up on all the different variations they can do in the run game, getting receivers involved in the run game, multiple running backs, and they're going to ask their quarterback to run the ball, 10 times a game as well. And I think Mike Norvell deserves a lot of credit. Job on the line, hot seat on, that he's sitting on, and he goes and gets Gus Malzahn and then goes and gets a quarterback transfer within his own conference that got benched by a school within his own conference. And so far, the marriage has been great. I think Thomas Castellanos, I know we were talking about this last time I was on with you guys, but if he stays on this path, there's no reason he can't be in the New York, Heisman-type conversation. Florida State's legit, and it's all because of those two guys.
Yeah, there's no coincidence that I'm rocking these garnet kicks lately. You know what I mean? As a Florida State alum.
Go ahead.
Okay, moving on to Carolina. We had expectations for them to start the season with Bill Belichick now as the head coach. They are sitting at 2-2, and their two losses are to Big 12 opponents. And right now, The unknown at quarterback, Gio Lopez, got hurt in their last game. He's been hurt quite a bit this season because that offensive line and just what's been happening there in Chapel Hill. What do you make of what you're seeing from Carolina? Is it what you expected or you expected more?
I expected more, yeah. To me, they're a notch behind schedule. I mean, it's one thing to lose those 2 games, but to get blown out and in the fashion in which they did, that to me is the most concerning part. I was always a little bit hesitant, and we talked about that. You know, they were picked to finish 8th in the ACC for a reason, and it's looking like they're going to have a hard time even getting to that mark. But I think the biggest concern for me is so much excitement this offseason, so much buzz, that if you're not able to capitalize that on year 1, what does year 2 look like for Bill Belichick? And that's a big factor for me, that he needs to get some sort of upward trajectory, because, yes, they were behind the 8 ball in terms of building this roster. But if it's next offseason and year 1 didn't look good, it's going to be hard to get recruits to have that same level of buzz and attraction getting into the program. So I think it's a big 2-month stretch, obviously, for Bill Belichick. Luckily for them, they have a capable backup in Max Johnson, but there's a lot of pieces around them that they got to settle in.
Who would have thought that this Clemson North Carolina game is going to be like a chance to flip fortunes for both of those teams that have been struggling out the gate? I don't think anybody picked that to be that sort of trajectory. In any case, real quick, let's rip through these coaches that have a little bit of fire underneath their seat currently. Beginning with one, Dabo Swinney. Give me warm, hot, or on fire.
I'm going to go door number 4 and just say cold. I don't think this is a warm seat at all. I think Clemson fans need to be real careful. That's a coach that's going to have a statue built in front of the stadium whenever his time is done. I know I was a national recruit back in the day. When I thought about ACC football, I thought about Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech was 3, then Clemson was 4. That's not that long ago. I know I'm dating myself a little bit, but what Dabo has built Clemson into, yes, this is a bad month. Yes, this is a bad stretch. Some people will say, Max, no, it's been a few seasons. Well, they still won the ACC last year. They're still competing. I think it's a very dangerous spot to be in if Clemson, you think the grass is greener on the other side. I think Dabo's shown that before he got there, that's not always the case. So maybe the flame has been ignited with the Syracuse loss, but I think there's a lot more that needs to be had for Dabo to really be in trouble.
Yeah, I think the grass is greener where you water it if you're the Clemson Tigers. How about Billy Napier there at Florida?
Really scorching hot. I think the fact that big reason why he stuck around was people were optimistic about what he and DJ Lagway could do. Lagway's looked terrible, I would say worse than last year. And now that it's been 2 seasons of this same buzz, I think it's scorching hot for Billy Napier.
I can only imagine what the temperature is for one Mike Gundy is then.
Exactly. Again, big thing across 2 different seasons. And it just feels like when you listen to Gundy, he's resistant to accepting the change of the new era NIL and transfer portal. And then when you look at all the other schools that Oklahoma State compares themselves to, Oklahoma Sooners, they've revamped their roster and turned it around this year. Baylor's got a great offense and doing some good things. TCU literally has the most productive passer in college football right now. They're doing good things. Texas Tech, again, right in that same region, they've revamped their program by embracing the new era. Feels like Mike Gundy hasn't done that. And again, all-time coach for the Cowboys, but it feels like that seat's getting toasty.
Yeah, they flipped the entire roster, flipped the entire coaching staff. Now he's the only one left from the holdover. We'll see what happens from here on out. Max Browne, we appreciate the knowledge as always, brother. We'll holler at you next time.
Thank you both.
All right, let's get into a few of the other Week 5 games. Taylor, Florida State, your Noles on the road against Virginia.
Do not sleep on this game. Both top 5 nationally in total offense. This is a very revitalized Virginia team with Tony Elliott in year 4. And it's a chance for Florida State to double down on what it's been doing and starting off conference play on a high note. We'll see. On the road, though, tricky
on
at
a
Scott
Friday
Stadium.
night, it could end up switching up a little bit on them. Wake Forest looking to upset Georgia Tech to end a 4-game losing streak to the Yellow Jackets. You're down there in Atlanta this week.
Yeah, I will be with the ACC huddle. Jackets 4-0 for the first time since 2014. They are a real ACC title contender, averaging nearly 250 yards rushing per game. Can the Deeks slow him down or at least match their energy with Damon Claiborne in the backfield?
No, man. Last week started a series of about 5 very winnable games for the Yellow Jackets. Finally, Mississippi State looking to stay undefeated with their second-ranked win of the season against Tennessee.
You know what? This game kind of feels trappy to me, Trev. Mississippi State defense has kind of been good. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm not mad at the idea. Head ringing is just thinking about the Cowboys, the Cowbells, rather, that are getting ready to rattle out there in Stark Vegas, baby.
All right, Trev, we cannot end the show without talking about one of the biggest games of the weekend, and that's number 3 Penn State hosting number 6 Oregon. Little rematch of last year's Big Ten championship game. A little rematch. The Ducks ended up winning that one. It's going to be a whiteout in State College. College game day is going, so you know it's going to be very rowdy. Let's start with the home team, though, in Penn State. Coming into the season, high expectations, but they've sort of just been lingering there at the top of the AP poll. We haven't talked a ton about Penn State. What has impressed you, or maybe has not impressed you?
I think it's a matter of them taking care of business in the first 3 games. TCB games, plus 115 as far as the point differential goes over the first 3 games, which is exceptional, right? Like, they are taking care of the things that they need to, but Drew Aller is going to have to step up in a way that is it's going to concern me as to whether or not he can, mainly because of the lack of explosivity within the offense. Just 2 passes of 20 yards or more, just 5 totes, I believe, of just 10 passing completions of 20 yards or more, 2 rushes
which is crazy,
of 20 yards or more. That's where it concerns me in being able to keep up with an Oregon offense.
No, I'm with you. First of all, we just flashed up the schedule. I hate that they start the season with Nevada, FIU, and Villanova. Like, give me a little something to get excited about and a little something for me to see what you're really all about.
No doubt.
I want those Power 4 non-conference matchups early.
Yeah.
If you're going to be Penn State and you want to be at the top of college football, let's schedule like it. Anyways, I digress. I agree with you, though. I think at some point this season, the offense is going to have to win you a football game. The defense can only do so much, and I've been very impressed with the Nittany Lions defense.
No question.
But it's going to come down to a game where maybe you have the ball last.
Right.
Or it's going to come down to a game where you've got to play game control and hold on to the football. And I'm not so sure I've seen the offense able to do that to this point.
No question. That is where your concern is going to lie, in being able to get creative and keep pace with an explosive offense.
Yeah, and they're going to have that this weekend against Oregon. Moving on to quarterback Drew Aller, who is in the Heisman Trophy conversation coming into the season. What have you seen out of him, or again, maybe lack thereof?
It's not surprising that we haven't seen a ton of productivity out of him, because it was their tight end, Taylor, above all else, and not a whole lot surrounding him last season. Tyler Warren, excuse me. There was a lack of creativity on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know if the connective tissue is quite there with the wideout group. There may be some things still to develop, but I haven't seen a physically dominant offensive line that is able to just lean on cats and get you the yardage that you need to. I haven't seen too much from Drew Aller in the standpoint of being able to create on the fly against a team that has a highly touted defense, just because he hasn't been presented with it, obviously.
Right.
But beyond that, is it there? Is it in the holster? I just don't know. So I guess I haven't seen much because I haven't been able to assess them against proper opponents.
I do think it is somewhat concerning. His QBR ranks 14th in the Big Ten. His completion rate is 11th, 64.8%, about 65% completing his passes. I do think in a game like this against Oregon, you need to establish a run game. Penn State has a great running back room.
100%.
They have to establish something on the ground against a really good Oregon defense and an Oregon offense that can score a ton of points. They're averaging about 51 points per game. You don't want it to be on Drew Aller's shoulders in passing the ball. If you get down early, he's going to have to sling it around the yard. I just think in order for Penn State to be competitive in this game, and we'll get to that in a second, I do think they have to establish the run for Drew Aller to be at his best in the pass
Ball
game.
control game, right?
Yep.
You're thinking time
I
of
agree.
possession, being able to eat the clock and keep that offense off the field.
Time of possession, 3 key words. On the flip side, for Oregon, you have a young quarterback in Dante Moore. He's coming off a 4-touchdown performance against Oregon State. Again, though, this Penn State defense is not Oregon State, who's really struggled this season. What do you anticipate in him this weekend against a Penn State defense?
I expect a confident quarterback to roll in there. Coming off of a career performance just last week, 4 touchdowns, the most that an Oregon quarterback has had in a conference game since Marcus Mariota did it. All of that to say, he's riding high, as is that Oregon offense as a whole. So you can expect them to take chances that I don't know that I've seen the Nittany Lions offense take just yet. It's going to be a hostile environment. We fully understand that. They've got two running backs that are averaging dang near 12 yards a carry, and another one that's averaging 7 yards a carry. They have a stable of cats that they will lean on in order to take the pressure off Dante Moore, but it is clear that Dante Moore is willing to take command of that offense and spin it when he absolutely needs to.
Yeah, okay, so you're saying this Penn State defense may lose a little bit of sleep this week in studying this Oregon offense. I would agree that they need their sleep because they're going to be going up against a really tough Oregon offense. But I do trust this Penn State defense to this point. And in talking and hearing from head coach James Franklin, he feels a lot more confident in the defense this year with Jim Knowles as the defensive coordinator than he did last year.
Which is wild because he let go of one of the best defensive coordinators.
I know.
Not let go of. Clemson obviously took him, but like to have that walk out the door and still re-up is impressive as all.
Yeah, so he thinks, I think, and I do think they'll be better in man coverage. I think they'll be better at rushing the passer. And again, you alluded to it. Dante Moore is a young quarterback. He has not seen a defense like he will this weekend against Penn State. And we've seen some of the young quarterbacks around the country struggle when it comes to big-time games 100%. Like this when they finally get to it. You think of Arch Manning in that opener to Ohio State, even C.J. Carr a little bit at Notre Dame, Ty Simpson, Alabama against a really good Florida State defense. I don't know how he'll handle it. He has great pieces around him. But this will be a different ball game. Again, whiteout, sold out, college game day in town.
Lights are going to be bright as all outdoors. And that is the sort of environment that you hope to get a real litmus test on a quarterback like Dante Moore. This is the first foray for both Drew Aller as far as the season goes, and then Dante Moore as far as the career goes, to see where they're at from the standpoint of being able to compete at the highest level in the biggest moments.
Ooh, imagine if Dante Moore pulls this one off in State College. Pretty crazy.
Dan Lanning going crazy.
How about the coaching matchup? Dan Lanning for Oregon, James Franklin, as I've noted, for Penn State. We saw how far Franklin took the team last year with 100%. Penn State deep into the college football playoff, into the semifinals. And then you have an Oregon team. Dan Lanning's been consistent. Who has the advantage in the coaching matchup?
Dude, I'll just read off the stat from research. Dan Lanning, 4-4 against top 10 opponents. James Franklin, 4-20 against AP top 10 opponents.
Ooh.
It's simply that. The big game James narrative will take over for me in this one. I trust Dan Lanning more than I trust James Franklin, even though James is at home.
All right, you know what? I'm going to go other side of the coin. I'm going to be confident in Penn State and James Franklin. You know, at some point, it's got to happen. I think they made strides last year in getting to where they did in the CFP, and I think they take care of business at home against Oregon.
I hope it for him. I just cannot look at the data and say, yeah, I'm going to ride with that. That's all it is.
We'll consult about it next week. Thank you so much for joining us on the Kickoff presented by Ram Trucks. We'll see you later. Taylor and Trev out.